Grant Amato was a 29-year-old man, struggling to find his place in the world. After losing his job as a nurse due to misconduct, he became isolated and unemployed until he discovered a campsite and became obsessed with a Bulgarian model named Sylvie. Over the course of several months, Grant spent over $200,000 on her, draining his parents' savings, taking out loans in his brother's name, and stealing everything he could to keep the fantasy alive. His family quickly became alarmed. They confronted Grant and even paid to send him to a rehab facility for internet and porn addiction. But once he returned home, he violated every condition they gave him, continuing to message Sylvie in secret. By January 2019, tensions were at an all-time high. His father gave him an ultimatum: get a job, go to therapy, and cut contact with Sylvie, or get out. Grant chose none of the above. On January 24, 2019, Grant waited until his mother, Margaret, was alone at the computer and shot her in the back of the head. He then ambushed his father, Chad, when he came home. Finally, he used his father's phone to lure his brother Cody, the very person who had financially supported him the most, back to the house. When Cody walked through the door, Grant shot him too, then tried to stage the scene as a murder-suicide. The next day, coworkers became suspicious when Cody didn't show up for work. Police arrived and discovered the horrific crime scene. Grant was later found at a hotel, claiming he had nowhere else to go. He was arrested and charged with 3 counts of first-degree murder. In July 2019, Grant Amato stood trial. Prosecutors revealed that his motive was rooted in obsession and that he chose fantasy over family. He was found guilty and sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The jury declined to recommend the death penalty. Even after the verdict, Grant never admitted guilt. In a chilling statement, he said, "My family has been blaming me for months for ruining their lives, so I might as well be blamed for this too." Grant Amato's story is a chilling reminder of how online delusions, when unchecked, can spiral into real-world horror. An 81-year-old grandmother and her adult son were found brutally murdered in their quiet Hendersonville, North Carolina home. What followed was a chilling investigation that led to 2 teenage suspects, a stolen car, and a foot chase through a cemetery. On the chilly morning of November 10, 2007, police in Hendersonville, North Carolina responded to a welfare check at the home of 81-year-old Constance Sparks, who also went by Connie, and her 56-year-old son, Robert Sparks, who went by Ricky. Inside the home, officers made a gruesome discovery. Both Constance and Ricky had been bludgeoned to death, suffering severe blunt force trauma to the head. There were no signs of forced entry, but personal belongings in Constance's car, a Cadillac DeVille, were missing. Just days later, 2 18-year-old men, Charles Frederick Collins and Justin Benjamin Graham, were spotted in Constance Sparks' stolen car on the campus of East Carolina University in Greenville, North Carolina. Campus police attempted to stop them, leading to a foot chase through a cemetery, where both suspects were eventually captured and arrested. Investigators believe Collins and Graham targeted the Sparks home for robbery, intending to steal valuables and the car. But the burglary turned violent and deadly, ending in the brutal murders of both victims. The 2 teens were charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder, first-degree burglary, felonious larceny, as well as possession of stolen property. At the time, both suspects were held on bond, $75,000 for Collins and $50,000 for Graham, and faced life-altering consequences for their alleged roles in the crime. The Hendersonville community was shocked and devastated. Constance Sparks was described as kind, loving, and deeply involved in her church. Her son Ricky was known to be quiet and helpful, living with and caring for his aging mother. This tragic case left a deep scar in the town, a senseless act of violence that shattered a family and rattled a peaceful neighborhood. In the summer of 2021, 22-year-old Gabby Petito and her crop-ass fiancé Brian Laundrie set off on a cross-country road trip in a converted white van. They were documenting their journey on YouTube and Instagram, capturing scenic views, happy moments, and life on the road. But behind the picture-perfect posts, something far more troubling was unfolding. On August 12th, police in Utah pulled the couple over after a witness reported a domestic disturbance. Body cam footage later revealed Gabby crying uncontrollably, while Brian remained calm and composed.
Sorry, officer.
You want to place your vehicle into park and go ahead and turn it off for me?
Yeah.
SO229, I had the female that was on the passenger seat separated from the male. Keys are on the hood. You want to tell me what's going on?
Yeah, I don't know. It's just some days.
It's myself from her, so like I locked the car and I walked away from her. What happened this morning is that she's trying to start up like her own little website.
Police ultimately separated them for the night, but no charges were filed. That encounter would later become a key piece of a devastating puzzle. Gabby's parents last spoke with her at the end of August. After weeks of silence, they reported her missing on September 11, 2021. Shockingly, Brian had already returned to Florida alone on September 1st. He refused to speak with authorities, hired a lawyer, and went completely silent. On September 19th, search teams found Gabby's remains in Bridger Teton National Forest in Wyoming. An autopsy revealed she had died from manual strangulation and blunt force trauma, likely weeks before her body was found. Her death was officially ruled a homicide. Just days after Gabby was found, Brian Laundrie disappeared. His parents claimed he went hiking in the Carlton Reserve in Florida, but never returned. For over a month, police and the public searched for him. On October 20th, Brian's skeletal remains were discovered in the reserve, along with a backpack and notebook. Inside the notebook was a written confession. Brian admitted to killing Gabby, claiming it was a mercy killing after an accident, a story Gabby's family flatly rejected. Gabby's family launched the Gabby Petito Foundation, advocating for domestic violence awareness and missing persons efforts. They later filed multiple lawsuits. A wrongful death suit against Brian Laundrie's estate, resulting in a $3 million judgment. A lawsuit against the Moab Police Department, alleging that officers failed to properly intervene during their August stop. That case was dismissed in late 2024, despite initial findings that the claims had legal standing. And a suit against Brian's parents, alleging they knew Gabby was dead while publicly claiming hope. That case was settled privately in February 2024. Gabby Petito's case is a haunting reminder that behind the lens of social media, abuse can hide in plain sight. A 16-year-old girl vanishes in the middle of the night during a family sleepover. No signs of forced entry, no cries for help, and no trace left behind, except a purse, a jacket, and a haunting mystery that still lingers today. On December 29, 2008, Shamika Cozy was spending the night at her aunt's home in Berkeley, Missouri, located on the 6,000 block of Napier. She had done this countless times with no prior issues. According to her family, Shamika left the house several times that night, stepping outside and coming back in. Nothing seemed unusual. But when the family woke up the next morning, Shamika was gone. Inside the house, all of Shamika's belongings were still there. Her clothes, her overnight bag, even her personal items. The only things missing? Her purse and a jacket. She didn't have a cell phone. The front door was left unlocked, and there were no signs of a struggle, no signs of forced entry, and no clear indication of foul play. Police initially believed Shamika may have left on her own, and her mother agreed. But while her mother thinks Shamika may have willingly walked out that night, she strongly believes her daughter did not intend to stay gone this long. In the weeks leading up to her disappearance, Shamika's mother noticed troubling signs. She caught her daughter using a fake ID to get into nightclubs. She suspected Shamika had been smoking marijuana. And one day, she saw her daughter get into a dark-colored car with a much older man. That man has never been identified, but police believe he may have valuable information and are still hoping to speak with him. Years after Shamika vanished, her mother discovered an old notebook, one Shamika had used to pass notes to a school friend. In one of the messages, written just months before she disappeared, Shamika mentioned a boyfriend and suggested she might be pregnant. Police questioned the boyfriend, but he didn't offer any useful leads. Friends also remained tight-lipped. She was known to frequent East St. Louis, Illinois, and some believe she may still be in the area. Her mother fears she may have become a victim of sex trafficking, but there's very little evidence to confirm what happened. Even the date of her disappearance has caused confusion, with some records listing December 28th, others December 29th, and some even December 30th. But to this day, her case remains unsolved and Shamika remains missing. A 20-year-old nursing student vanished from her quiet home in Parsons, Tennessee. What followed became one of the most haunting and controversial murder cases in the state's history. On April 13, 2011, Holly was last seen by her brother as she walked into the woods with a man wearing camouflage. At first, he thought it was just her boyfriend, but it wasn't. Holly never came back. What followed was the largest and most expensive missing person investigation in Tennessee's history. For over 3 years, her family searched. Hopes rose, then collapsed. Then in September 2014, ginseng hunters made a devastating discovery: Holly's remains, buried deep in the woods, not far from where she vanished. In 2017, Zachary Adams was arrested, tried, and found guilty of kidnapping, raping, and murdering Holly. He was sentenced to life in prison without parole, plus 50 years. His brother, John Dylan Adams, took a plea deal and received 35 years. But the key to the entire trial? A man named Jason Autry, who testified that he helped dispose of Holly's body and claimed to witness her murder. Years later, in 2024, Autry recanted his entire story, admitting he lied on the stand to avoid a harsher sentence. He said he used cell phone data and public info to create a believable but false testimony. This bombshell has reignited legal efforts by Zach Adams' defense team, who now argue that his conviction was based on a lie. But despite the recantation, a judge has denied a retrial for now. Holly Bobo's case remains one of heartbreak, justice, and controversy. While her family found answers, new questions now haunt the courtroom. She stepped out to grab bottled water and vanished into the night in her own car. No distress calls. No activity. Just nothing. On the night of August 31, 2021, around 11:30 p.m., Sequoia left her home near Howie Road and Weldon Avenue in North Columbus, telling her partner she was headed to a convenience store. She drove off in her black 2009 Ford Fusion, but she never came back. She was reported missing the following day, September 1st. Weeks later, the vehicle was discovered parked on the west side of Columbus, now sporting stolen license plates. Police collected evidence, though nothing has been disclosed publicly. Sequoia was 33 years old, standing at 5 feet 5 inches, weighing 145 pounds, with black lemonade braids and distinctive thigh tattoos. She was usually active and in daily contact with family and friends. Her family, partner, and longtime friend Bree Belcher have led the search efforts. Her brother, James Carswell, still longs for closure. Reports suggest Sequoia received a text message just before leaving her home, but its content and sender remain unknown. She did not answer calls afterward, and her social media and phone went silent. There were prank ransom demands received by her partner, asking for $7,000 to return Sequoia or $500 to speak to her, but police dismissed them as hoaxes. As of today, her case remains unsolved. On June 26, 2021, around 7:30 a.m., Raja, then 27, was seen at a gas station near East 131st and Harvard Avenue, getting into her silver 2018 Nissan Sentra. Hours later, surveillance footage captured the same vehicle, now missing hubcaps and a license plate and bearing bullet holes in the roof and rear side, driven by someone else, and Raja was nowhere inside. Authorities initially treated the disappearance as missing person case. But after sharing surveillance footage, they upgraded it to a death investigation. The FBI and Cleveland police are now offering up to $30,000 in combined rewards through Crime Stoppers and the FBI tip line. In 2025, investigators publicly named Raja's boyfriend, Stan Williams, and his brother Sloan Mitchell as persons of interest. Williams was identified driving the bullet-damaged car, and he admitted being her last known contact, but denied wrongdoing. Police continue to press for answers. Police believe Raja is not alive and say the right tip, no matter how small, could solve the case. They're actively reviewing both old and new evidence, reinforcing their belief the case is still solvable. As of today, this case remains unsolved,